What up? Hey guys, what's going on? It's me. Whatever my name is. How are we guys doing? So for me, it's the day before Christmas Eve, and I thought, because I was thinking about it at work. Remember where I told you that I worked and I have a job where I'm well, I'm wearing headphones. I don't need those. Where I have a job where I'm in retail and all that stuff. And anyway, my mind went wandering a little bit, and man, if I could get in my personal life, it'd make you guys too sad. So I won't talk about that. So I will talk about something interesting, which is my grand spiritual journey. I thought about this as I was at work today. I was kind of piecing it together and I didn't really realize this. So let me tell you my grand spiritual journey. So I have been kind of in and out of trying to understand how this stuff worked for some years now. And it is all built around the creation of this mythology that I've been talking about in almost every damn video, I assume. And within that mythology, I've been trying to make sense of what's going on. It was at first kind of trying to, make sense of the lore. I thought it was that deep. I was like, I'm just trying to figure out the story and the universe, and I gotta draw the map and what countries are there and what are their, what's the political landscape, shit like that you would think in a fantasy. But then as I was doing that, I was noticing things were deeper than I had suspected. So I just kind of went along with it. Now, I can't remember dates, so maybe we're going to stay ethereal and we're just going to talk about it without dates. I'm going to tell you in order how this stuff happened. But anyway, I got to the point where I was writing in book 2. I was beginning the process of creating the second book of the Forgotten series. And that one fateful night, I had a very strange dream. And this opened everything up. Before this dream, I was wanting answers to all these questions in the second book. Because, as you know, I do a lot of stream of consciousness. I do a lot of trying to figure this stuff out. And I had basically, and to put it simply, written myself to a corner. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. Went to sleep one night. And during that night, I had this very strange dream. In this dream, I found myself, I believe I was in a city. And I was walking with somebody. I don't know who it was. I'm not sure who it was. And for whatever reason, we were walking and then we saw out ahead a deer, a male deer, so a stag. But he was standing on his back legs like a human being. And he was just staring at us. Very menacing. And I was like, we should probably, I don't know what that's about. We should probably get the fuck out of here. We proceeded to try to leave, and he kept following us and following us. And if you've ever seen like Jason, or Michael Myers, they don't run, right? Well, he didn't either. Okay. He did not run, but he was always following us. And all I can remember, because it's so foggy, was me and this person next to me, this guy, went around this car to kind of like put some space between us and the stag. But he kept trying to go around the car. And so when he did, we went like this, right? Kind of like a cartoon. I'm on this side, you're on that side. And eventually, during that process, my friend or the guy with me fucking left. He fucked off somewhere. He left. But the stag didn't give a fuck. And the guy's like, and the stag's like this. He's just staring at me. You know what I mean? Fuck the guy that ran off. And so I just kind of was like, I have to get out of here. And so in some sense, I knew I was dreaming. So in my dream, this is what I mean in some sense, because I'm like, I got to go home. And for me, in a dream, when shit gets too real, I try to go to my childhood home. I'm not really sure why, because I know it's not going to work. But in the dream world, I don't remember that doesn't work. So I tried going to my childhood home, and I was on our big porch. And as always, and I've talked about this before, I can't open the front door. I'll never be able to get back in there again. but I'm on that porch trying to be safe. And I'm standing there, the door won't open, and I'm stuck on the porch. I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do. And as I was there, I found this knife. I just kind of was like, oh, shit. So I put it, I tried to hide it on my person, if you will. And I started to hear a roar of a crowd. And I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of people just all cheering and roaring. It's like that. And I was on the porch and I was like, and I kind of knew that I had to go and face this being. It's like, I got to go and put an end to this. I guess I have no other choice. I could not wake myself up. I was stuck in this fucking dream until I figured this out. And so as I stepped on the porch, I was transported into this giant open plain, a field as far as the eye can see, very level with, knee-high grass, if you will. But all around me was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people cheering and roaring and cheering. And I'm like, oh, shit. And when I say they were all around me, I mean, I don't really know distance very well, but the farthest person away, I couldn't make out their face. It was a massive circle. And in popped the stag. But he transformed into a man with a black goatee, short black hair, I think, or middle, I don't really remember his hair, but it was dark black hair. It kind of reminded me of Gwyneth Need, honestly. And so the fight began. He closed in on me and I closed in on him, and then we kind of tussled together a bit, and I tried pulling the knife out, but he was somehow fucking took it from my hand and tried to put it on me, and so I had to kind of do one of these fucking moves where he'd come back and he'd try to stab again and I have to stop him. It was annoying and it was fucking horrendous because keep in mind, I think this is real. It's one of those dreams where I'm like, this is really happening. So I'm fighting for my life not to get fucking stabbed. I'm fighting as hard as I fucking can. Somehow, it's kind of foggy, I was able to get the knife from his hand. I don't know if I was stabbed or not. I feel like I might have been stabbed. I don't know, because it'll make sense when I tell you later. And so I was able to take the knife, and after some fuckery of fighting, I got it in his neck, and then I just remember pulling across as hard as I could from ear to ear. Just fucking across, because I wanted it. He's done. As I did that, his blood was spurting, it was getting on me, and then he fell in the field and vanished. And so did the crowd. And the dream was going away. And as it did, I could sense the presence of a very strong masculine energy, being very pleased with what I just witnessed. And I woke up. And I was very like, oh my God. I have a video. I was telling this originally on the channel. So you'll see this all happen in real time. All the subsequent things I'm going to talk about. So that had happened. And I was really reeling about that. And then after that, I got really, really sick. Very fucking sick. Like, I couldn't even get out of bed. I remember I would try to stand up and walk 5 feet to the bathroom, and it took everything in me. And I almost had to crawl. I was so weak after that. And I was violently ill. I didn't have a fever or nothing. I didn't. It's kind of what I call a phantom illness. It's like there's no real symptoms. I knew that something happened to me, and I was deathly ill from it. And it was probably that was the most fucking insane sickness I had ever experienced. And during that sickness, which lasted about a week, I believe, close to a week, I was having the most lucid, strangest encounters with the other world that I could ever tell you. I was taken And I remember during that time I could close my eyes and I could just and manifest, and I was there, and I could see it visually and perfectly and clear and explore it. It was insane. And I explored this other world, and I was like, the ones that come out to mind were, after I explored the dark depths of this cave and I transmitted myself through it and I came out the other side, it opened up through a chasm, giant cliffs on each side, very tight, like you had to go in sideways, and it opened up, and out ahead I saw this giant valley, and in the middle of that valley was water, like a crystal blue lake. And so we went down there and into the lake, and me and somebody, I'm always with this person. Me and this person went on a boat into the lake. And as I was there, I remember, I don't really know how to explain it because I don't know geography. So forgive me if I'm explaining this weirdly, but this is just how my mind works. Inside this big lake, the mountain was kind of towering next to us. So we're in the middle of the lake. I look over here and there's a giant mountain. But an arm came out of the giant mountain and then it jutted down to the lake. I don't know what that's called. It's not a plateau, but I don't know if you know what I mean. But like it stuck out of the mountain and then it went down into the water. And so it was kind of this giant fucking doorway that I could pass into, if that makes any sense here. I'm sorry if that's not a good explanation, and I'm sure there's a geological term that would make this easy, but I don't know geography, or any of that shit at all. I don't know geo shit. But I remember on the side of that mountain was a face. And I knew that I had to, I saw in the face, out the mouth, water was pouring out like a waterfall from the side of this mountain, and it was filling this blue lake, which it kind of poured over it down to the valley below. It was interesting. And that was a place that I remember going to and being in. And so I kind of knew that was a place I needed to explore in book 2. I kind of made note of this. I'm like, this is in the book. We need to re-explore it in our waking consciousness. I knew I needed to use this as an example to explore for the book. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I'll get these otherworldly visits and I just try to re-explore them. I've talked about before through the stream of consciousness writing process. So I knew I was going to do that. So that's why these encounters are very perfect for me. As I was starting to get better after all that shit, I've talked about this before too. I was visited by my guide. I remember laying in bed and this is kind of when I always am met by, like, Tirnanog, they call it, or Magmal, the other world. I'm always met in that kind of space between waking and sleep and dreaming and not dreaming. And I was laying in bed by myself. And she just, unfolding like a paper. I don't know how to explain it, but that's what I felt like. The paper was just unfolding in front of me. And there she was. And it was the most beautiful, stunning woman I've ever seen in my entire life. She had a glow about her, but something kind of scary too. I had to kind of turn away, like, oh my God, like, it was such a strong, beautiful, feminine energy that I felt like a grubby little nothing looking at it. I thought, oh, don't look, you don't deserve this. You're just a grubby little man. But she kind of made it feel like it was okay. That was when she made herself aware to me. That was the moment. Looking back, that was the time. She introduced herself to me, and since then, she's been guiding me along the way. And I remember thinking, wow, it's so strange. I had this very masculine dream where I had to kill this shapeshifter. Then I kind of got really sick, and then coming out of that sickness, I had this very strong feminine energy manifest there right before me to let me know that it's okay. Then, this is going to sound really crazy, I'm sure. In the middle of trying to make sense of all that stuff, I went back into writing book 2. I was taking those things I was trying to figure them out through the writing process. Um, in that figuring it out, I wrote a very good scene, and I knew I needed to do something with a character, but I didn't know what. So I went to sleep on it. I was like, I don't know what to do with him. I'm going to go to sleep on this. Middle of the day, kind of a day nap. Then I was visited, I had another encounter with the other world. And this is going to sound trippier than the previous two. So I may sound crazy, but this happened, as far as I know. I went into the other world. As I closed my eyes, I didn't even fall asleep. It's a funny thing. And this, let's say, how would we word it? Because I could say a fairy. I don't want to, but I don't know how you understand fairies. She was a kind of like a goddess, but something was different. Like, like maybe, like maybe she was a goddess of high power, but for something's happened to her. She's not cursed, but she's different, and I knew that. Like she had changed, and I know in Celtic mythology, when they talk about the Tuatha De Danann and they talk about the fairy people, the good folk, and all that, I've heard mention that they were gods and goddesses, but because they were forgotten, they've turned into these things. Now that's Christianized. I understand it, but there is some aspect to it. And she felt like she was not evil, but she did come to me, and weirdly, she wanted to make love. Now, it did not feel, because I know the first thing someone's going to think, like, oh, succubus, no, it wasn't that, because I've not really experienced anything else with it afterward. But I knew she wanted to have a child. That was what it was about. Though the weird part was I was able to be a character in my book during this exploration. I was able to be Nakim, Nakim. I say Nakim, some people say Nakim, it doesn't really matter. I was able to be this character, and so had intercourse with this otherworldly being, and I still don't know what happened about that. I don't really know, as far as I know. And of course, I took that and put it in my book. That has to happen. I'm kind of like, why did that have to happen? I'm not really sure, but it did. And it's come and gone. And subsequently, after all this stuff, I've had to explore these things and try to make sense with what the fuck all that was about. And so, if you look at my writing series on this channel, this was during that time. And during that time, and I stopped the writing series once I stopped writing book 2. Since that moment, I've been trying to make sense of everything. And in saying that, I've had to learn how to unlearn so I can make sense of all this stuff. Subsequently, what I realized was that era was my spiritual awakening. But I was not able to make sense of a lot of it because I had all these different layers that I didn't know were on me. All these blankets holding me down societally. So as you can see from the Inner Thoughts series, that is me trying to unravel all the layers in my own time, in my own way. I remember a very significant dream, which is also part of the fucking second book, where once again, I'm with a guy. I don't know who this is. It's like one of those things where they don't talk, but you know they're there. They're right next to you, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know you're my companion, but like, I don't know who you are. And they're always a silent companion. Well, me and this companion were going into this cave. This is the beginning of my unraveling period. Inside this cave, I learned it was a vast network of tunnels and corridors and passageways, and it was very elaborate, actually. It was a labyrinth. Now, I must caveat, there's a difference between a maze and a labyrinth. A labyrinth, you will get to the end. A maze is designed to confuse you. A labyrinth is a test, but you will eventually get to the end. There is no, like, well, I gave up and I had to, like, you know. Now, as I was navigating through this labyrinth in the mountain, I came upon, the deeper I was getting in, I started to see shrines. I don't know who the beings were, but they were carved in the walls of the cavern. And as they carved them, people carved like a shelf underneath them, and they put votive candles, a lot of rose petals. I remember a lot of rose petals, and these flickering candles and the melted wax. And there were like offerings and bowls and stuff like that. Like, it was a very sacred place. I knew this. I was like, oh shit. I passed through it. I got out of that, and all of a sudden I took a step down as I was going through the passageway around the corner, and boom, it opened up into a giant, massive room. Ceiling was like hundreds of feet high. Below me was hundreds of feet down, but there was a bridge. And then out in the center of a bridge was a pedestal raised on the ground that kind of came from darkness. And upon that was a massive statue of a being sitting there cross-legged. And he was bald-headed. Now, on the sides of this massive room, there was like weird hallways, strange hallways on both sides. And what I saw on both sides was people, hooded people, silently moving towards the other end of the room, all around us. I couldn't access them. There was this, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to explain it. You look up this area, and then on the sides, you can see cut out openings. And then in the openings, people are moving down these hallways into some areas out in the distance there. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that's about. As I was approaching this giant statue, I remember turning to my friend, whoever that is, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot. I forgot to bring an offering. So I half-assed, ran back, and just like went to one of those shrines. I was like, this. It was a golden dog. And I don't remember the other thing, but it is recorded on this channel somewhere. I mentioned it. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head right now. I came back to the statue. It was a giant, carved of stone, sitting man in that posture, that, you know, like a Buddha posture almost, or the Kernunos posture. Then the statue started to speak. He's like, that was very foolish what you just did there. But, you know, good attempt, basically. So as punishment, I'm going to make you void your bowels. I was like, void my bowels? And I woke up. Hand to God, I got up, and I had to take a shit, but it was water diarrhea. Fucking just, I wasn't sick, nothing. Out of nowhere, that happened. And then after that, I was fine. I was completely fine, but I knew that was my punishment. So I started realizing that there is some seriousness to this shit, this weird shamanic shit. I have to take this shit seriously. So I was like, I need to be respectful to this inner being, because that was myself that I went inside there in the labyrinth, and that some part of me was that being. And so I had to kind of figure out who he was and what he is. And I think he is a transcendent aspect that can lead me to a new understanding. Let's just say he's a guide, to really keep it simple for you, because I kind of have a better idea of what it might be, but I don't want to confuse you already more than you probably already are. So as you see from the Inner Thoughts series and the For You series, and then a new series I created, that's me trying to unravel this stuff. You know, I talked about Christianity was a big thing that I had to get off my back. Even though I didn't grow up Christian, even though I didn't go to church, I knew I needed to get their terminology, their understanding. I needed to pull apart what Christianity influenced and even like Celtic things, I have to stop looking at it through a Christian lens, because that's another thing that they did. There's a whole series of these, a whole series of these traps that I had to undo. And it was a long time, and it was a very frustrating process. And I'm sure you can remember just how frustrating it was for me to undo all this shit. Because Christianity is the biggest thing for me. You know, I'm growing up in the United States, in the middle of nowhere. Protestantism is huge out here. So it's hard to undo that, because every time you try, you get everyone around you like, I think you need to just accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Yeah, you know what I say? You can't get away from this shit. So it's really hard to do that. And so I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of research and studying, and listen to spiritual studies and listening to comparative mythology. And I failed a lot. I fell a lot. And it was a really hard journey. Very difficult one. But then that recent dream happened. I had a lot of huge prophetic dreams, but the one I'm going to say is the one where, again, I was met in that pre-sleep state where I was told to go deeper and deeper, farther and farther in, beyond all thought, all feelings, all memory, all emotion, all everything, beyond it all, until you get to the little I. That was the last huge prophetic moment that I needed to unravel. And I knew I was on my way to doing that, but it was just trying to reconnect with this. And I can safely say I'm still on the journey, but I'm a hell of a lot closer than I was before that stag dream, the shapeshifter. Leaps and bounds, my friend. Like, we've gone so far from that. I've almost unraveled myself, where I've disassociated with this world to such a degree that I'm trying to learn about this version of myself, this little I, but at the same time be in the world too. How do you navigate with the bullshit that this world is, but at the same time have this spirituality? Now let's pause for a moment. What did I say in the last video? I go out in the woods. What was the overall message that I said in that last video? Frozen forest contemplation. I said the woods help remind me that I'm here, that I'm a human being, and I need to rely on my humanity to sustain this body and this mind. I have to be in this world. But the woods help remind me of that. But they also help remind me of what the real world is too. Having a balance of being a human being and understanding how to navigate this human world and these human constructs and these belief systems and all these traps of politics and religion and all that bullshit. There are all these traps. But how can you thread through those but not get stuck by them? How can I pass into religion, into politics, into spirituality as a whole, culture, and not get all this shit stuck to me? That's finding that little I. That's what that process was. You can be in this, but don't let things fall upon you like that. Don't let it stick to you. You don't have to be that way. You can pass into this world. I go in the woods to kind of learn these lessons. It teaches me. The shape-shifting, the stag. Now, I understand now that that is what I consider a corrupted being, as in, it's the last vestige of the true creator in the form that it knew how to access me in. I don't know any huge real life examples, but it's like when in Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas go into King Theoden's court, and he's like sitting there all corrupted because he has Saruman inside of him, cursing him and all that shit. But that was still King Theoden. It was like that. It's like the stag, he is the last vestige of a high true power, but he's so corrupted. And that was the only thing he could communicate to me with. the high feminine power, that woman that visited me, my guide, I've linked to like Bridget, not Saint Bridget, Artemis, Diana, a strong female deity. I found one in the Chinese one. This is the reason I've come to this is I've accidentally stumbled upon two different weird effigies in an antique store, and both of them embody what Artemis was, the hunting goddess and all that. So I'm like, I knew, okay, this is who's communicating with me. And I remembered something about, there's a Greek myth, King Agamemnon, before he went on to go to Troy and all that stuff, he killed a stag who was Artemis's favorite stag. And so she cursed him. If you remember, what happened to him and all that stuff. Later on in his life, he was killed by some guy trying to take over his throne, go in cahoots with his wife and all this stuff. Okay. He didn't sacrifice properly. It was a whole thing. Okay. I'm not here to tell you about the Greek myth. That's for you to figure out. King Agamemnon and Artemis. Look it up. Now, some part of me was like, that stag that I killed, was that sent by her? Did she like that or not? Did I do something wrong by her or right? It was hard to figure out. And then I remembered I got really sick after that, and I thought, I don't know if that was a good thing to do or not. Maybe I didn't need to kill him. I don't know. I'm still kind of questioning that. But ever since that moment, she has been guiding me along this path, giving me the dreams that I need to have so I can unravel this. As you're seeing in the Harrius Codex, as it will continue to happen, that's the series of dreams that really shaped what the story will be before we get back into the mythology. And this whole path has been laid out for me, and I've been a part of it. It's been divine, it's been hell, it's been trying, but it's also been a huge triumph too. Because you have to understand, there are two ways that I access the other world. The only ways that I know how, because there's no one taught me this shit. The only way I can do it is the pre-sleep stage, which can lead into the dream state. But then I do my writing. So when I'm sitting down as a writer and I'm turning everything off and I'm channeling this stuff, that is the second way. Those are the only two ways that I can access it, is dream states and we'll say, stream of consciousness writing series. The middle part, I would say, would be like that middle point where you're not asleep yet, but you're not awake, you're about to fall asleep. That's a middle stage. That's very interesting. So it's kind of in its own world. But these are the ways that I understand the other worlds, that I access them and I move into them, and I'm able to kind of sift through this shit. And you've heard me talk long and hard about how it's imagination, how that is the key to understanding these realms. And I've talked long and hard to try to get you to understand imagination is a lot more than what you think it is. There's a lot to this process. It is a creation realm. It is a realm that we can access to pull forth these things. In saying that, I've been learning how to define my dreams and how to pay attention inside of them and how to manipulate them if I need to. But most of the time, staying, I'm going to kind of use this word, at the whim of what they're trying to teach me. I don't want to control this. I don't want to be the conductor of this. I want to be the audience. Like, tell me what you need me to learn. All the while listening intently and paying attention to every little fucking synchronicity along the way. Whether it's something someone else says that lines up perfectly. There's someone that watches this right now that has countless times been told to do something for me, or we did something in sync so much, I kind of knew that he's on this path with me. He's the guy that I'm doing that channel with, the other one, Intuitive Idiots, actually. Now, there's all these things that I'm trying to pay attention now. Don't take anything for granted. Don't just scoff at this shit and be like, oh, it's just, like you're looking too deep into it and you lost your way, blah, blah, blah. And active imagination and escapism and all this stuff, this modern fucking bullshit that people will get it stuck in their fucking heads. And it's fine if you want that for your world, but it's not everyone's. When you escape all that stuff and you begin to see this fucking experience, you could hear that missing part of yourself finally fucking speaking to you again. There's the mythical Ireland. He did an interview. His name's Anthony Murphy. Anthony Murphy. Anthony. So I don't know if that's how you say it or not. And he did an interview with a guy named Machan McGann. He's passed away. He was this very great Irish man. And they were talking about the spirituality of the land and listening to this and this feminine energy and people coming back to this process of filling this hole inside of themselves that is missing with our modern society. And the Irish people mostly is what they focused on. But Machan McGann, that's how you say his name properly. I apologize if I butchered it. He talked about visiting Native Americans and people in Central and South America and more indigenous people, how to understand this stuff and how to be in tune with it. I take all that stuff and I look at it objectively. And then I look at my experience that I just told you now, my great spiritual awakening. And I said, that's fucking it. The things that you keep going like, no, and scoffing at and pushing aside, that's why it's a fucking void. You don't listen to it. You know what I mean? I'm very proud of all this stuff that's happened to me. I've never felt more like Celtic in my entire fucking life. I've never felt more spiritual, more in tune with a higher power than now in this moment because of all that. Though I cannot say that I was born in Ireland, I've never felt so close to something that I've never seen before. And man, I could tell you all these strange little synchronicities about that damn island in my life that are beyond I can't even, it's the amount of shit that's connected to me to that land blows me the fuck away. Because I'm here in this land, across the ocean, in a cursed feeling land, because of what we've done here as settlers, because of what we've done to this place. And you can feel that. But at the same time, I sense this great spiritual awakening, something that all of us, when we emigrated away from Ireland and Scotland and Wales and England and France and Germany and all the Norwegian places and all the Baltic, we're an amalgamation of so many different people over here. And we've intermingled so much that we've lost all of that shit. If you're sitting right now in your country in Europe and you're like, yeah, we've lost touch with our roots because of Christianity, it's like that 10 times worse over here. Because this country began only a few hundred fucking years ago, 300 plus years ago. And it began, as you understand how it began, and look where we are. It's a fucking mess. It's a spiritual mess. But you can begin to unravel all this stuff if you work on it. If you have your understanding and you listen to all this inner work. And it takes a lot of that work. But it's fucking worth it, man. I'm going to end it on that. We'll cut it from there. Yeah. It's out there. You just gotta let it find you. But anyway, that is my great spiritual awakening story. And I shall see you in the next one.